Let's face it, Hollywood is not great at keeping its based on a true story movies very accurate. The most you can reasonably expect a Hollywood biopic to do is get some of the names right, and even that's not guaranteed. Here are some biopics that forgot the facts and lied right to your face. Green Book attempted to tell the story of pianist Don Shirley and his former driver Frank Tony Lip Vallelonga, better known now for his work on The Sopranos. When the movie was released, it was already towing a U-Haul full of controversy behind it. Some people were disappointed that the film seemed rooted in the outdated and well-worn story structure of a white guy going on a life-changing trip and totally understanding the plight of the black community by the end. But for some members of Don Shirley's family, there were deeper issues. According to them, Shirley specifically stated that he didn't want Nick Vallelonga, the son of Tony Lip, and co-screenwriter on the picture to tell his story. More than that, however, they said that the portrayal of Shirley was flawed and that the friendship between him and Tony was a fabrication, even famously calling the movie, quote, a symphony of lies. Bohemian Rhapsody was a movie that took decades to make, burning through multiple directors, writers, and actors before finally hitting the big screen. Like lots of biopics, Bohemian Rhapsody paints the truth in broad strokes, and some stuff got reworked for time. For example, Freddie Mercury didn't spontaneously do a back alley audition to join the band, but he did spend a long time bugging Brian May and Roger Taylor until the original singer was eventually replaced. The most dramatic deviation from the truth comes at the film's conclusion. Because Mercury was so tight-lipped about his diagnosis, details are pretty murky, but it's generally accepted that he probably wasn't aware that he had AIDS until 2 years after the Live Aid concert. Remember the emotional conclusion of the film where Freddie gets the band back together by cluing them in on his tragic circumstances?
They'll be alright, they just need a bit of time.
What if I don't have time?
Yeah, that never happened. 1, Freddie didn't even know about his tragic circumstances, and 2, the band wasn't actually broken up at the time. Cool soundtrack, though. Life is complicated, and the human race is a multifaceted hive of both good and bad. Universally speaking, people involved in the most heinous and unforgivable acts perpetrated throughout history also had at least a couple of pleasant qualities. This leads us to the super uncomfortable topic of 12 Years a Slave's historical accuracy, specifically as it applies to Benedict Cumberbatch's character William Ford. In the film, Ford is portrayed as a nightmarishly abusive taskmaster with a penchant for antithetical Christian sermons. Weirdly, the man who would have likely argued the most with this presentation was Solomon Northup, the slave played by Chiwetel Ejiofor in the movie. Northup wrote that Ford was a kind, noble, candid Christian man who was caring and thoughtful, and recounted being saved by him on more than one occasion. In contrast, Michael Fassbender's character was apparently even worse in real life, known for joyfully whipping slaves for entertainment. So maybe some people have no redeeming qualities after all. Starring Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum, The Greatest Showman supposedly tells the origin story of the world-famous Barnum and Bailey circus, but the truth is that this fun family flick couldn't be farther removed from reality. Among the glaring discrepancies are Zendaya and Zac Efron's characters, who never actually existed. If they had, their love story would have ended much differently, as Barnum's views on the inherent humanity of non-white people were pretty disturbing. When he was 25, Barnum illegally purchased an elderly slave named Joyce Heth, whom he billed as the nurse to George Washington. Advertising her as 161 years old, he fed her a strict diet of whiskey and eggs to bring her weight down, and then got her drunk and had her teeth pulled out. It was sort of what started his career, but in a surprise to no one, the movie decided to gloss right over that piece of unsettling information. The 2011 biopic J. Edgar follows the shady, enigmatic life of one John Edgar Hoover, the first director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It stars a pre-Academy Award Leonardo DiCaprio as Hoover, but despite all the talent attached to the film, it proved to be too complicated of a story to tell accurately. The movie makes a pretty huge deal out of Hoover's sexuality, painting him as a closeted homosexual who is held back from happiness by a strained relationship with his domineering mother. However, the truth is a lot more complex than that. Hoover's sexuality is a point of historical speculation steeped in unknowns.
Don't get in the car. You can walk back.
Edgar, we have lunch. We don't miss lunch no matter what, remember?
You pulled away from me in there.
Some historians say he was involved in a relationship with Clyde Tolson, but others assert he was firmly asexual, or, as his biographer believed, a terribly private heterosexual guy. Whatever the case, the big lie in J. Edgar was one of omission. Under Hoover's watch, the FBI was deep into investigating homosexual people as potential security threats. They regularly tore people's lives apart in huge ways, threatening to expose their sexualities if what they perceived as problem behaviors persisted. Conveniently, this was left out of the biopic. Starring Mel Gibson as Scottish warrior William Wallace, Braveheart took the world by storm in 1995, garnering Academy Awards and big bucks at the box office. It was an incredible success, and also incredibly inaccurate. For starters, Wallace definitely didn't start the Scottish Rebellion over the death of his wife. In fact, he may not have been married at all. He wasn't a farmer either. Instead, he was actually small fry nobility. And it's really, really unlikely that he got Queen Isabella pregnant, seeing as she would have been somewhere around 9 years old at the time, unmarried, and nowhere near England. The list doesn't stop there. The film gets important dates muddled, and the weapons and armor in the movie are anachronistic, especially the kilts, which wouldn't really be a thing for a few hundred more years. But despite the discrepancies, we still owe Braveheart a great debt for gifting us with this ever-quotable gem.
And tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
1998 was an unusual time for Robin Williams' acting career. His last two movies, What Dreams May Come and Good Will Hunting, put laughs in the backseat, instead breaking the hearts of moviegoers everywhere. Third in the sob story trifecta was Patch Adams, the based on a true story flick about a doctor by the same name who started a medical institute focused on zany hijinks as a facet of healing. On the surface, Patch Adams seemed like the part Williams was born to play, a sad-eyed funny man with a boyish playfulness and heartwarming personality to comfort the sick and bring joy to the dying. Here's the thing, the guy that Williams' character was based on is about 1,000% more complex than the guy we see in the movie. Clowning around is just part of his philosophy. He's also deep into holistic therapy, ecological responsibility, and tarot. In fact, some of his beliefs, like how love can fix mental illness better than medicine, are quite controversial. While we're on the subject, Patch Adams' girlfriend, the one who was tragically murdered in the film, never existed. The real Patch Adams did the famous room full of balloons gag on a date with his wife, to whom he was married for 21 years. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.